thank you all. Oh, that got loud on me real fast. Thank you all for joining me today. I'm going to go through some learnings that we've had from BMC Technologies as we try to help our customers accelerate their path to the cloud. So how do you get there faster? How do you get there and get the outcomes that you're looking to drive? So we break it down into some of the bigger bullets. The biggest thing that most of our organizations that we talk to say is they want to go to the cloud because they're trying to do something faster. They're trying to bring something to their customers better. That's part of the drive innovation piece. That's the primary goal and focus of what they're looking at. They're trying to master some of the new elements of modern IT. They want to learn how to leverage microservices better. They want to do things more streamlined. They want to figure out how to integrate all those pieces in. But they also have to tie that back to their legacy infrastructure, back to the old. And whether that's just a simple bridging exercise for a short period of time, or it may be something they choose to do in perpetuity, but trying to figure that map out. Because as you bridge from your current to the future, a lot of questions come up. One is, what should I move to the cloud first? How do I know if I was successful? Have we oriented on the right outcomes? Do we figure out what the security and compliance implications are of all of that? We've been helping people build out all those maps so that you can make sure that you understand, this is how I do it today, this is how I'm going to do it, and this is how I'm going to get myself there. Recognizing that that roadmap has to be fluid, because that second tier, that mastering of modern IT, there's a lot of things we're talking about at this show. In a year, there's going to be new stuff that we're trying to learn and figure out how to implement. You have to future-proof your process and your roadmap and recognize it's a snapshot, it's a point in time, it's how you think you're going to get there now. And then lastly, while we're trying to innovate, your day job didn't go away. You still have to have that table stakes conversation of maintaining stability and optimizing what you're doing and how you're doing it today, because that may free up the dollars to help you do some of that innovation. So required capabilities. So we look at it in three bigger buckets of some of the things that you have to be able to do. You have to be able to discover. If you want to move stuff to the cloud, you have to know what it is, where it is, how it's doing it, and what its dependencies are. It's that dependency mapping piece where we see a lot of folks fall down. They don't truly understand, okay, if this thing goes down, or these set of servers are no longer available, what business service goes down? So making that service awareness is what we call it, but so that you can go to that service owner and say, this is the impact to what you're delivering to the business. You don't care what server it's on, you don't care where it came from, but allowing people to kind of abstract up. That's what we're trying to get folks in a position to be able to do. Giving that omni-channel experience and delivery anywhere, making sure that when your employees look at different things, regardless of where they are or what device they use to get there, that it all looks the same. Performance operations. This is kind of tried and true and has been there forever, but the dynamics change when you go into the cloud. Things that were problems a million years ago back in the mainframe were taken away when we went to distributed. Sometimes when we go to cloud, some of them come back, you get new problems. But you need to maintain performance. You need to maintain security and compliance, and you need to make sure cost and capacity optimization is in place. I don't know about everybody here, but I've gotten some frightening Amazon bills. Well, Amazon won't yell at me for that one. We do have a focus in that point of just making sure that you're using your dollars correctly, you're using them in the right place. I had one customer they started their cloud journey. When we got to the end, after we optimized and built everything out, the bill was the same. But the workloads and the amount of work that they had being done in there was tremendously different at the end. It was just when we started, we didn't know what we were doing. And we were trying to figure it out, and we learned quickly and then made those adjustments. We try to build into our tooling, and if you come over to the BMC booth, we can show you some of that, of how you can do that fast recalibration. And then lastly, in the automation piece, when I first started in IT, much too long ago to think about, one of the things people said to me is that the system laughs at you if you do the same thing in a row over and over and you don't learn how to automate it. You can't, if you work in IT and you can't build a script, you can't figure out how to automate repetitive tasks, then you kind of don't really know what you're doing. So in here, that's where we talk about that automation has to be able to run anywhere, regardless of what you're planning to do. It works in any cloud, it works on-prem, it works all over the place. We also have turning data into insights systemically. That's something else we'll talk about in the booth from an automation perspective. How do you automate that churn and burn on your data and actually pull some insights out of it? So let's see. So as you look at cloud adoption, these are just some of the hiccups that we've seen people have. So explosive complexity, as a lot of folks go into the cloud, it gets exponentially more complicated very quickly on them. 80% of folks are moving into the cloud, and then most of them have a multi-cloud strategy, whether that's multiple Amazon clouds, however that is. 38% have bounced back from the cloud. One of the primary reasons for that is because lack of alignment on the outcome. It's not because necessarily the cloud didn't do what you thought it was going to do, but you didn't know what you expected it to do. Maybe cost savings wasn't the goal. Maybe speed was the goal. But does everybody align on what that is so that you can make sure the goals are clear before you start so we can call success and failure and you don't wind up with an early bounce back? New decision makers. There are more folks than just the traditional IT organization making choices about which services go into the cloud, which clouds we use, which services we use. Trying to keep track of all those folks is definitely different, and it's a new environment for us. And then lastly, all those new decision makers has given us unstable governance because it's hard to track what you don't know is happening. It's also hard to track if the person that's coming to the table doesn't understand why those security and compliance and InfoSec issues are a big deal. We are working really hard to make sure that you can tie these pieces together, and that comes into the next slide. I'm actually going to skip this one real quick. So when we look at the cloud imperatives, the things that we want people able to do is really in the top is enable the services, but enable choice. Make sure that your developers have the choices that they need to make when they want to make them. They feel like they're master of their domain. That you've simplified the governance. You didn't make it so onerous that they didn't feel like they could do anything fast enough or they chose to go around you. And the last but not least, reduce the friction. That's the number one thing I hear from most customers is that there's too much friction in the process. When I try to go to the cloud, it's either I need too many approvals or things are getting caught in different places or security just locks it down at the last minute. How do we improve all that? So from a BMC perspective, sorry, I'm trying to hurry these up a little bit. From a cloud management and migration, this is what we're offering. This is how we're trying to help people move to the cloud faster. One, discover across environments and be able to map out those dependencies clearly, crisply, and have that updated regularly. That's part of our discovery solution, and that's in our booth to talk about. Deliver anywhere. We don't care where it is. We're not worried about that. We're trying to get folks in a position of worry about your service and how to provide that. Don't worry so much about those under layers. Operations. Understand your performance management. Understand where it was today, wherever it is today, if it's on-prem, wherever it is, and then understand what it is when you move it. And then track those changes. Take advantage of those improvements. But then also be aware of any degradations. Cloud security and compliance assessment. Security and compliance can't be last, right? We've all read the Phoenix Project. You've read all the different books and theories when folks talk about security is the last guy that gets invited to the meeting because they always say no, they're paranoid, they're just going to tell me I can't do what I want to do. So then we just ignore them, and then they come into the end of the product. Design with that in mind, but then there are tools like some things like we have like cloud security and stuff like that that can systemically go out and test and look and see where things have come out of profile. Build this into your process. And then lastly, the stabilization and optimization. That constantly getting better so you can get that money and then refund new projects. Lastly, on the automation side, again, run application workflows in the cloud, on-prem, move them back and forth based on what's happening. That's visibility we want to be able to offer to people, and then flexibility that we can offer. And big data. Every time I look at big data, I think of Hadoop, but with the automation in the cloud, trying to keep track of all those different data sources and then use that to feed your AI machines and have that all continuous learning moving forward. Okay, so specifically for accelerating AWS adoption, we bucket it in these kind of three bigger areas. On the front end is the migration, so first get it there. Now when you're trying to move it, you've got to find it, you have to understand the dependencies, understand the security implications of what changes, understand the costing and being able to model it. What happens? How do I get to the numbers I need to? From a DevOps perspective, this is more about accelerating the application deployment pipeline. different pieces we have in there. And then lastly, we talk about it more from what is cloud operations now? We knew what IT operations was and the capabilities that they had. How do we keep that consistency that you can see your entire estate, and then also help you change how you look at some things, because cloud does change the narrative a bit. And then I think this is just our final stat to terrorize everyone. 50% of the S&P will be replaced in the next 10 years. That's just something that just keeps happening. Those numbers churn, people come in and out of the market. But what we're hoping to do is to help you disrupt in your industry so that you're not the one who comes off the list, but that you continue to grow and then you meet your customers' needs. With that, I can pause for any questions. I think I ripped through my time. We might be at the 15 minutes. Okay, if you have any questions or concerns, we are over in the BMC booth. We have all of the products I talked about, we're happy to demo, and maybe you'll win a Segway. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Allison. Please come back and join us for our next presentation beginning at 6:10. Have a great evening.